need to integrate GitHub Authentication into your FastMCP server while keeping credentials secure and configurations simple. We'll implement the GitHubProvider using FastMCP's OAuth Proxy pattern, which bridges GitHub's traditional OAuth with MCP's dynamic requirements. You'll see how just 3 parameters, your GitHub OAuth credentials and server URL, enable full authentication handling, including customizable callback paths and automatic token validation through GitHub's API, all while maintaining production-grade security with HTTPS enforcement. From FastMCP, import FastMCP. From FastMCP, server, auth providers, GitHub import GitHubProvider. Auth equals GitHubProvider. Client ID equals OAuth23ly. Hash your GitHub OAuth app ID. Client secret equals ABC123. Hash your GitHub OAuth app secret. Base URL equals https:// your server com. MCP equals FastMCP. Name equals GitHub protected server. Auth equals auth. This demonstrates the OAuth Proxy pattern, specifically bridging GitHub's traditional OAuth 2 implementation with MCP's dynamic client requirements. The pattern enables MCP servers to authenticate users via GitHub accounts while handling the protocol mismatch between GitHub's fixed credential OAuth and MCP's expectation of dynamic client registration. What makes this distinctive is its ability to present a DCR-compliant interface to MCP clients while using pre-registered GitHub OAuth credentials. The provider works by implementing GitHub's web application flow with automatic callback handling, where it manages the OAuth redirect, token exchange, and opaque token validation through GitHub's API. It defaults to using auth callback as the redirect endpoint, but supports customization via the redirect path parameter and requires HTTPS for production-based URLs. The provider automatically stores validated user data in token claims while keeping client credentials secure, with the base URL serving as the public identifier that must match your GitHub OAuth app configuration. This approach delivers production-ready GitHub authentication with minimal configuration, requiring only version 2.12.0+ of FastMCP. It's particularly valuable for developer tools and internal systems where GitHub accounts serve as the identity provider, though it does create vendor lock-in to GitHub's authentication ecosystem. The trade-off is justified when you need GitHub-specific features like organization membership verification or repository access scopes. But remember that client credentials must never be committed to version control. Let's break it down line by line. From FastMCP, import FastMCP. This imports FastMCP, the core class for creating AI-callable tool servers, requires v2.12.0+. It implements the OAuth Proxy pattern to bridge FastMCP's requirements with GitHub's OAuth 2 flow, handling the full authentication handshake, including token validation via GitHub's API since their tokens are opaque. All production base URL values must use HTTPS, and credentials should never be committed to version control. From FastMCP, server, auth providers, GitHub import GitHubProvider. This imports GitHubProvider, FastMCP's OAuth Proxy implementation for GitHub authentication, requires FastMCP 2.12.0+. It bridges GitHub's traditional OAuth flow with MCP's requirements by handling the full handshake, redirect to GitHub, token exchange, and user validation via GitHub's API, necessary because GitHub issues opaque tokens that require API calls for validation. The provider auto-configures the default callback at auth callback, customizable via redirect path, and stores validated user data in token claims. Production requires HTTPS for the base URL, and credentials must never be committed to version control. Auth equals GitHubProvider. This instantiates GitHub's OAuth Proxy provider for FastMCP authentication, requires FastMCP >= 12.0. It bridges GitHub's traditional OAuth with MCP's requirements by handling the full flow: user redirect, code exchange, and token validation via GitHub's API, necessary because GitHub issues opaque tokens, not self-contained JWTs. The base URL must use HTTPS in production and match your GitHub OAuth app's callback URL defaults to auth callback, but customizable via redirect path. Never commit client secret to version control. On successful auth, the provider automatically stores GitHub user data in token claims for downstream access. Client ID equals OAuth23 lie. Hash your GitHub OAuth app ID. This is your GitHub OAuth application client ID from GitHub's developer settings, implementing the OAuth proxy pattern to bridge GitHub's traditional OAuth with FastMCP's requirements. The ID must exactly match your registered app, while the base URL requires HTTPS in production and must align with your app's authorized callback domain, defaulting to auth callback, unless customized via the redirect path parameter. GitHub's opaque tokens, non-JWT, force runtime validation via their API, so this provider handles the full OAuth flow: redirect, token exchange, and user data storage in token claims, but requires FastMCP 2.12.0+ and never commit these credentials to version control. Client secret equals ABC123. Hash your GitHub OAuth app secret. This is your GitHub OAuth client secret, the confidential credential that authenticates your server in the OAuth proxy pattern. GitHub issues opaque tokens that require API validation, so this secret enables secure token exchange while preventing impersonation. The secret must match your GitHub OAuth app configuration, never be committed to version control, and always use HTTPS in production. FastMCP 2.12.0+ automatically stores validated user data in token claims for downstream access. Base URL equals https://yourserver.com. Sets your server's public base URL for OAuth callbacks, requiring HTTPS in production. Defaults to appending auth callback, but customizable via redirect path parameter. Uses the OAuth proxy pattern to bridge GitHub's traditional OAuth with FastMCP's requirements, handling the full flow: redirect, token exchange, and validation via GitHub's API, since GitHub tokens are opaque, not JWTs. Version 2.12.0+ automatically stores validated user data in token claims. Never commit client credentials to version control. This closing parenthesis finalizes the GitHub OAuth proxy configuration, implementing the OAuth proxy pattern to bridge GitHub's traditional OAuth with FastMCP's authentication requirements. The provider handles the complete flow, redirects, token exchange, and validation, while automatically storing user data in token claims, but requires HTTPS in production and FastMCP 2.12.0+. Critical security notes: GitHub's opaque tokens, not JWTs, force runtime API validation, and credentials must never be committed to version control. The base URL defaults to auth callback, but can be customized via redirect path. MCP equals FastMCP. Name equals GitHub protected server. Auth equals auth. Initializes FastMCP with GitHub OAuth using the OAuth proxy pattern, bridging GitHub's traditional OAuth with MCP's authentication requirements. The provider handles the complete flow, redirects to GitHub, token exchange, and user validation, while automatically storing user data in token claims, with HTTPS required for production, base URL. Requires FastMCP 2.12.0+, with client credentials kept out of version control, and supports custom callback paths via redirect path, since GitHub tokens are opaque and require API validation. GitHub OAuth Proxy Pattern. The GitHubProvider implements FastMCP's OAuth Proxy Pattern, v2.12.0+, to bridge GitHub's traditional OAuth with MCP's authentication requirements, handling the complete flow with just client credentials and a server URL. The base URL must exactly match your GitHub OAuth app's callback URL configuration, including protocol and port, with HTTPS required for production deployments, and the default callback path of auth callback can be customized via the redirect path parameter. GitHub's opaque tokens require API validation, so the provider automatically calls GitHub's endpoints to verify tokens and extract user data into token claims.
The gateway that never holds a key becomes the most secure door.